Welcome to my first official stream on this channel for, you know what, I actually don't think I've done this since like lockdown days. Oh my goodness. But yes, welcome to the channel. We are here to discuss just how absolutely mental Spurs have been lately. Not in a good way, unfortunately. A few ups and downs. I mean, I say a couple of decent results. I think one decent result, Crystal Palace away. But again, Sunderland just letting it all go, which is a massive, massive shame because, yeah, we simply just weren't good enough, to be honest with you, in the second half. I think first half we looked much better than we had done recently. And I was quite impressed. And I think the team just had a lot more balance than they did in previous matches. But then it all fell apart in the second half. I mean, it's diabolical. Money Mace. Hey, George, man, been a while. Hope you're well. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's really hard to stay consistent on YouTube because I work full-time. I'm a full-time editor for Calix's production company, After Party Studios, for those that don't know, which just means like finding the time to actually make my own content is really, really difficult. So yeah, it's fine. It's all good. I'm trying to make sure this all runs smoothly. I don't know if like the chat box is like connected. It's supposed to be coming up on your screen as you see, but I don't know why it's not quite working. Oh well. But it's all good. Anyway, yes. Evening. Welcome. Welcome. I'm just trying to. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna get this shared to my Twitter now. Sorry for the delay. I've had enough of Frank, haven't we all? Also, let me know as well, because I'm just trying to make sure, I'm trying to get this all set up properly. This is my first time actually setting up a stream for a while. Let me know if like my audio is out of sync to my voice. I'm going to try and make sure that it's not, but it's hard to do so, to be honest with you. I'm also going to bring up the stats for this game. Let's have a look at. But yeah, whilst we're sort of waiting and getting things set up, make sure to leave in the chat sort of your thoughts of today. In today's match in particular, we're going to discuss Sunderland versus Spurs at home. I was there. It was an okay first half, much better than we've seen recently, but then second half dropped down massively. So let me know what you think of. Let me know what you think of the game today. We'll discuss that first, and then we're going to look at the wider issues at Spurs. I also haven't live streamed in this setup before, so I'm just making sure that everything's like sort of all clear. So let's see what you guys are saying. What was especially good about the first half in my eyes, Richie won a couple more duels than usual to get us up the pitch, and the other team was trash. And other than that, it was the same as always. Yeah, Nathan, the thing is, you say that right, but I think what I saw personally in the first half was I thought we pressured them well, a lot better than we've seen recently. So, for example, I would say Odebear, when he started in the number 10 towards the beginning, I thought he looked a lot better than we had seen, for example, when we put Gray there in the last game with Brentford. Do you see what I mean? And what I thought he did well is they put pressure at the front line, or sorry, should I say their defensive line. He put pressure in our front line, and we won the ball back quite a few times on the edge of the area. I think as well, as much as when the lineup came out beforehand, I was gutted to see, I wouldn't say gutted is harsh, but I was like seeing Davis in the lineup in 2026. Oh my goodness. Like, to me, I'm like, how we are still playing him in 2026, I do not know. But, but to be honest with you, he ended up being one of our better players. But I think it really just shows, though, that we were missing the balance a lot in our games recently by not having a left-footed left back. I think that's so important. And do you know what? I think Spence has put in some really good performances. We all know from a defensive point of view, he's been amazing. And it is strange because sometimes I do think that he plays better at left back than he does at right back. But I think when you think of the team as a whole and how we set up as a whole, when you don't have a naturally left-footed left back, it lets us down so much when we're going forward. Now, there have been countless games this season where Spencer's gone forward in attack way more than Porro does. And the issue is, when we also haven't played a natural left winger that can hold width, we then just end up in this conundrum where Spencer's going to have to cut inwards because he's right-footed naturally. He's not going to deliver balls in with his left foot. but then would also have someone like Bergvall, for example. I think was it the Newcastle game? You guys will remember probably better than I do. There was games where sometimes we played almost Bergvall was a left wing in a way. You know, when we were doing that sort of double 10 setup with him and Xavi. And it just meant Bergvall was out wide, getting in the way of Spence. And I feel like there just wasn't that sort of synergy amongst the team. Whereas having Ben Davies in the team and Tell, who is a natural left winger, as much as I do think we need to move on from Davies in the future, and then obviously with Tell, I think we do need a more experienced left winger. I think they just had a lot better balance, and I feel like Tell was doing a good job taking the players out wide, and then sometimes drifting inwards as well, which allowed for some overlap. Whereas you can't really have that with Spencer left back. So I thought the balance of the team was much better in the first half. Than it was in previous matches, and I don't like the fact that we've gone into a few games recently. Well, I say Brentford in particular, we had not Bergwell. We had Gray, Bentancur, and Paulinho as our midfield three. That's atrocious. You basically got three of pretty much the same profile of player together. There's no natural 10 in that. There's no creative passer in there. There's just nothing different. Whereas at least with Odegaard, he carries the ball better than those three and takes on players better than those three, rather than just five-yard passes. So I thought that was better. Still wasn't like mind-blowing, because there was definitely moments. I remember before Kudus got his injury, there was one moment in particular where he actually ran across the sort of edge of the box, and I thought he looked like he was about to shoot, but then for some reason he kind of, even though there was loads of space in front of him on the edge of the area, he tried to almost reverse pass it back out wide. I don't know if you guys remember that from today's one. And obviously it just didn't find, I think it was Porro out wide. It didn't find the player. It ended up going straight to their defenders and went back. And then we were just like, those are the specific moments I feel like you need to shoot in. And we're not doing any of that. So I think we still let ourselves down on that front. I think Tell was the only one that was really showing to actually shoot a bit more in that first half. And what the thing is, look, he's not a perfect player. I think when you've got someone young like that, they need consistent minutes, like we saw with Bergvall last season, to get any better. But he's obviously not getting that at all. And I think this is the first time he's played nearly a full match this season, bar potentially Leeds. And what I like about his technique, well, it's his shooting technique, to be honest with you, I think is better than some of our forwards. And I know a lot of people saying he's not good enough, which fair enough, he might not be, but I don't think he's been given enough fair time in his natural position where he was today, funny enough. But there's a lot of people that they say that he has no backlift when he shoots, and that basically just means that he can basically get his shot off quickly, pretty much, and does it quite well. And there was a good one where it kind of went just wide. I think he had another one that was sort of straight down the throat of the goalkeeper, but he felt like really the only player in that front line that was really, truly trying to get the shots off in the first half. It weren't many, don't get me wrong, but it felt more than other people. And obviously Kudus going off injured, had to bring on Colin Mawani, who was really disappointed today. I felt like his first touch and the way he carried the ball. Has anyone seen that meme where the guy, I said this to my fiance at the game, you know, when the guy is like trying to like make cocktails and stuff like that, but all he does is like move his head really quickly to make it look like he's moving fast, but he's not actually moving at all. That's what I felt like Colin Mawani was like today. But anyway, let's catch up with who's here. Okay, first half, poor second half. Yeah, Harvey, I agree. Do we second them? Look, I'm going to be completely honest. I think we need to move on from Frank. And we're going to get into that in a wider chat in a minute. But for now, we're just going to talk about the game specifically, then talk about the wider issues, like do we sack the manager, what players do we get in, this, that, and the other. But yeah, man. Anyways, overall thoughts of this. I'm basically, Frank don't care. If he stays or goes, I won't be hurt either way. But personally, I just think he's personally think he's going to last long, but some players are awful. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like, I think they would have got rid of him by now if the plan was to get rid of him. But yeah. I felt like he went more attacking in the first half, so fans wouldn't attack him. Then he saw some good stuff. It wasn't perfect, but slightly better, agreed, and changed it. 43% possession, second half is poor. I agree. In fact, let me see if I can bring... I've got the stats up here. Right, let's have a quick look. Let's have a look at this. So, this is like sofa score from today. Obviously finished 1-1. Right, let's look at the first half. The first half, it was much better. XG I prefer to look at in the more like longer term. Evening, Holly, welcome. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up. Yeah, so in the first half, look, okay, like I said, XG I think it's better to look at something like that in the long term across a season to see how a team's doing, but it kind of just goes to show what sort of quality chances we're providing, I guess. Oh, my thing died already. Oh my goodness. All right, bear with me. My camera has just died. Of course it has. Of course it has. Give me 1 second. This is a great start to this then. Let's go with... Oh my god, that looks atrocious. Right, I've had to use my backup webcam for now. I think my camera just died. Okay. That will have to do for now while we discuss it. I think I need to just let it go back to normal a little bit. So yeah, if we just look at the first half, one big chance, then none, 8 shots, 2 on... No, where is it? Where's the shots on target? Total shots. Where are the... Hold on, am I being blind? Where are the... 8 shots to their 2. Oh, there we go. Okay, so 8 shots, 4 on target. They had 2 shots, none on target. Like, we did feel like we were attacking a lot more. And it did feel like we were on top of them. And I do honestly believe that we put a lot more pressure onto their defence and to win the ball back. I think Porro first off, actually, a little bit underrated. Not necessarily in his crossing. I think even though that's normally his best part of his game, his crossing was actually not that great in the first half. But what I did find is that he was winning his duels a lot more. His defensive duels, that is. But then if we just flip that to the second half, it's just a completely different story. They had 8 shots to our 5. They had 3 on target to our 1 on target. And even like the possession difference as well. We had 43% possession in the second half. Compare that to 53-47. Okay, a little bit even, but you just felt like we were in control that game a bit more, just like with not creating amazing amount of chances. Second half, it almost felt like that we were just there to set up for a 1-0 win and just be happy with it. And you can't do that in the Premier League. You can't, because they're just going to come back and they're going to punish you if you don't do that. I mean, you can even look at the attack and momentum here on this sort of left-hand side of your screen. We had it pretty much mostly the first half, and then the goal came. And then second half, we just gave them way too much, especially at the end. And then when they got the goal, oh my God, you actually felt like they were going to go on to get a winner more than you thought that we were going to go on to win 2-1. So yeah, it was a tough game, and I was that second half I was fuming. Monday was not Monday. Sorry, when was the game? Thursday against Brentford was an absolute nightmare. That was awful. It was when he brought on Palinha and Bergvall in the 10. I personally already knew the score would end up 1-1. Webby's goal didn't even annoy me because I knew it was coming, and that makes me sad to say that. And you know what? I was with you there, spot on. Well, it wasn't necessarily the substitution; it was just the overall momentum of the game. Like I said, me and my fiance and I, we said the moment we weren't going for the second goal and trying to win at least 2-0 or 3-0, you just knew they were going to go up the other end and score. It's really bad, and yet it happened again. And you thought they were going to get the winner as well. Tell isn't perfect, but he's better than what he's got. He shows intent, at least, a solid young winger. That is my thought process as well, to be honest with you. I think for me, he's nowhere near the finished article. But when you look at the options that we have to us right now, especially while we haven't brought in that new winger to play in that front line, I don't understand why he's not getting more consistent minutes to give it a go. Because I understand there's a lot of people, and the main argument is what we've seen so far isn't good enough from him. Yeah, fair enough. I think a lot of us had a lot higher, myself included, I had a lot higher expectations from him because I thought he looked really, really good for France under 21s. And there were moments when he came on for Bayern Munich when he used to play for them that you think that, oh, he's a bit of a game changer. Since he joined Spurs, I think we've completely misprofiled him, in my opinion. I think we've played him striker almost every game apart from the recent stints out at left wing. And I think he is just better as a winger who can cut. You know, similar how Sonny sort of operates for us. Sonny was never a touchline winger, but really and truly, he's not a lone striker either. And I think Tell is exactly the same. Both really play their best as inside forwards that like to shoot on the edge of the area. In terms of their, and this is why I need to be careful before it gets clipped up. I'm not talking about their quality levels when I'm saying this. I'm not saying Tell is as good as Son or this, that, and the other. That's not what I'm saying. But in terms of the profile of player and what they're best at, they are similar in that both do a really good job at starting out wide, drifting into those inside areas, that sort of half space, and then shooting from the edge of the area. I don't think Tell's anywhere near as quick as Sonny. Nowhere near as quick as Sonny, so I'm not comparing them in that sense. But just in the way they carry the ball and like to shoot on the edge of the area, their style is similar. And we've not used Tell that way at all until today, really. And I did think he looked better. But when you're so young, we saw with Bergvall last season, you're not going to get better unless you have consistent minutes, especially in a position that you're playing the best in. I think Gray played minutes last year, but he was playing centre back, left back, right back. Whereas you are seeing him slowly, like Gray, I'm talking about now, slowly grow and develop in now that he's playing regular minutes, which is good. It's not going to be an instant thing, but these young players need time to adapt and learn the league and learn their best positions, this, that, and the other. And I don't think we've done that well enough with Tell. So I personally would like to see him more, obviously, until we get a first team ready winger. But I mean, if Kudus is out injured now, then he might he might have to be playing more regularly. But there's been loads of links for him to being loaned out. Look, I think either way, whether it's with us or with someone else, he needs more minutes. He can't be rotting on the bench and not playing. Money Mace again. I'm someone who really wanted Frank. I'm not hiding away from it. But this isn't the Frank that I really liked at Brentford. He seems scared. At least with Ange, he had a bit of character. Again, mate, honestly, I agree with you 100%. I'm just going to try and get this thingy back on again. I think my camera just overheated, so I'm going to try and get, because this webcam on looks hideous. Let's see if this is any better. Turn the brightness back up. Sorry, it's my first time streaming in a long time, but yeah, that's much better. So yeah, like I said, I think we've just been misusing players like Tell for a long time. But yeah, what were we saying? What everyone else think from today? Yeah, sorry, no, back to what you were saying, Mace, about Frank, Money Mace. I think for me, when I did all the videos in the summer, delving into the tactics of what he was doing with Spurs, the problem we had, and I remember Kish on I think he said this on Twitter as well way back then, what didn't really work out well is that we were on the tour aspect of pre-season when you're playing Newcastle, Arsenal, Bayern Munich. We never really got to see how we would play against teams who maybe sit back a bit more. I think, especially in pre-season as well, we were playing tougher oppositions that will come at us more. So this sort of maybe going long to Kudus or Richie or whatever looks better in pre-season because you're playing tougher opposition, and that sort of style works a bit more, which is why I think we did really well against Man City. We seem to do every year because they press us so much. They leave a lot of space in behind, and it's easier to attack. But when you come up against teams that sit off you a bit more, like trying to think of recent ones like a Palace. I know we won in the end, but these sort of teams, we can't test ourselves in possession, and it's his in possession tactics for me that have been diabolical. It's just boring U-shaped football constantly, and then he puts a massive emphasis on crosses. And I get sometimes it's about the quality of the player and the crosses not going in well enough, but really and truly needs to be doing better than that. Needs to be having a better plan than just lumping it along to Kudus. Hopefully it sticks, and then just magically work their way in the box. I'm not seeing any sort of intricate triangle play, nothing like that. It's all straight lines. It's all let's get up as quick as possible. But with teams that sort of are a bit more reserved, or at least really good defensively, like Arsenal are, who know how to get back into position, what's the plan then? I don't see one, and I haven't seen. It doesn't feel like we're changing, and I feel like that second half was sort of more of that. Like a team like Sunderland, they're difficult to break down because they've been really good defensively this year, and the first half felt better. I felt like we were moving the ball with a little bit more intent, But really and truly, it felt like as soon as we stepped off the gas and were just happy with the 1-0 and weren't putting pressure on and weren't going for the throat, going for the jugular, it felt like we were just back to basic, boring football, which just isn't going to fly in the Premier League. How high should this squad be, George? I definitely think it's not better than Arsenal, City, Villa, Liverpool, Chelsea, United squads. So 7th, I think the squad is overrated. There is a big talk about that. It's not just about the manager. I think the squad definitely, maybe we do overrate individual players more than we should, but then equally, the way we got ourselves playing now, I think our current squad is still better than what we're showing on the pitch and where we are in the league table. I mean, the league table you can't really look at properly yet because so many teams are so close. It's so up and down. 1 minute we could be 8th, the next minute we could be 15th. So we can't really look at the position just yet, but it's worrying signs when you're dropping points against teams that we shouldn't be. And I don't really see a sign of improvement. I think that's the difficult thing for me, is that like I am more than happy to an extent to forego results, certain results, if I'm seeing that we're truly developing a style of play. And a style of play that, one, is like a European place worthy, which is where we're aiming to be. Don't forget, it's the ownership that said to us that we're going to be competing on all 4 fronts, or that's our aim, to compete on all 4 fronts. Well, we definitely don't have the squad for that. I know that for a fact. We don't have the squad for that. But we're not even playing the football of a team that is trying to be competitive on all 4 fronts. Like, have a look at this. I'm going to quickly show you the stats for this season. Now, bearing in mind, let me zoom in so you can see that a bit more. Bearing in mind, this isn't factoring all of this weekend's results. Like, it's not factoring today. It's got some of the yesterday games, hence why you got some people on 20 and some on 19. So it's not got our games today, even though we're still technically 13th. Let's look overall first. Expected goals. Look where we are. We are 3rd bottom for expected goals. Bearing in mind, we were near the top of the table at this point, but this number has barely changed. 17.8. Whereas everyone else is flying above us. Like, how have Brighton, Crystal Palace, how are these people almost double the amount of what we got? That is absolutely diabolical. And you cannot tell me, and I know it's not perfect. Richie's not perfect. Konwani's not perfect. Kudu's started off amazing. It's not been great. It's not perfect. But I'm sorry, you categorically cannot tell me that our forward and our attackers are the 3rd worst in the league. Behind Wolves, behind West Ham, behind Fulham. That does not run. I know Calvert-Lewin has hit form, but we're better than Leeds. No shade to them, but we are. Now let's expected goals against. And again, this is what I'm saying. When you look at expected goals, it's way better to look at across a season or multiple seasons, because it gives an indication of how good a team is at consistently generating goals or consistently stopping goals, right? Expected goals against. Okay. We're a bit better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 6th. We are better at being a bit more defensive. We've seen that the last few games. We've had a couple of clean sheets against Brentford and Crystal Palace. But it's obviously still nowhere near the top because Arsenal have just been ridiculous this year. That's better. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I'm pretty certain at this point last year, this was better still. And people were having to go on our defence last year. I need to see if there's a way of checking at this point last year. But this is what I mean by Frank's in-possession ability worries me, because we are not a 3rd bottom attack when you look at those players. It's just simply not possible. And then that way you can split at home and away as well. We know the difference between it. So if we look at home first, where are we? Terrible. Absolutely woeful at home. We're basically the same as Burnley at home for scoring goals. To be fair, Sunderland are really low down. But yeah, 5th for goals against. Whereas away, where are we away? You know what? For as good as our away form has been, the fact that we're near the top of the away table, we still do not create many chances away from home. 5th bottom of the table. And defensively, worse. Worse defensively away from home. Yeah, I mean, I know the squad's not good enough, but that is just... I feel like he's way underperforming our squad. Our defensive record under Andrew was good with Mickey and Kuti. I'd like to see us with Frank. Yeah, I think it was definitely better when those two played. I think you could also argue, though, that Andrew was the reason why they got injured a lot. They seem to be better this year because we rotate more. I guess that's one positive. I think our squad has a lot of unique profiles. A lot of players are very good at a few things, but pretty bad at others. I feel like Frank isn't setting the team up in a way that suits the players. Yeah, I guess you could argue like a lot of the midfielders are not good at passing. They're definitely better ball carriers, but even then, not fantastic. Although saying that, Bentancur was one of our most progressive passers last season, and he's almost rock bottom for it this season. And that says to me that that's a manager issue, because he clearly can do it. He's just been told not to. Hot take, I want Ange back because there's no entertainment anymore. The most excitement I get is waiting for the team sheet to get out. Yeah, look, this debate will happen all the time. He's not going to come back, so I wouldn't entertain that. I just think what we're seeing right now is just unacceptable. Completely unacceptable from our manager. And we can't really use injuries as an excuse because a lot of teams this year have had bad injuries. We had bad injuries last year, and I'm not being funny. People weren't willing to give Andrew the time of day when it came to those injuries. So we kind of we can't have like a double standard, a double look on it when you can't say, oh, but Ange finished 17th, despite, to be honest, last season having the worst injuries I've seen on record for us. But then say, oh, Frank needs to be given more time because he's had a load of injuries this year. It can't work both ways. It's either you admit that both had issues because they had injuries, or they should have been doing better with the squad that they've got, or you just say that the ownership should have done better at squad building, which is equally fair. How many goals have we scored from long throws compared to how many we take? You know what? I don't think FBref has stats for goals from long throws. To be honest, I don't think we've scored from any long throw. To be honest, but that seems to be like a league-wide thing that everyone seems to be taking long throws. And I get the theory behind it. You're getting the ball into the box. It's like a corner in that sense. You're getting closer to goal. But really and truly, most people that throw the ball aren't getting it far enough in the box to have an impact. Every time I see it happen, I feel like 9.5 times out of 10, it's getting headed clear by a defender. Whereas I feel like you're better off having the possession and then trying to cross it in, because at least you can cross it in with a lot more power. That's just my personal opinion, though. But Frank doesn't have any injury troubles with the defence. Yeah, I think you can look at that two ways. One, it's a praise to him in the sense that he's rotated well enough and playing a certain way that Van der Ven's hamstrings aren't getting decimated. That's a positive. The negative is, okay, apart from Udogie, you've had your back line fit for almost all the season. Bearing in mind, Spence, everyone was saying Spence should start over Udogie sometimes anyway. So you've basically had your back line fit the whole season, for the most part. Why are you still not delivering good results? Do you know what I mean? That's where the big questions have to be asked. So I don't know what you guys think now. Is it time to change Frank? I think we have to be honest with you. I think it's diabolical. In fact, let me get my little... Let's have some fun here, all right? Because clearly Spurs don't know how to. Let's whack out the tactics board. We love a bit of the tactics board. Okay. Let's see how this is how. Let me just get these. How Frank likes us to set up, and this is what worries me with how we play. And also, by the way, if you are Frank out and you want us to change manager, let me know who you would bring in instead. ignore the numbers on this. I could edit it for the actual players, but yeah, it's worrying. The thing with me with this year, and I feel like this is how Thomas Frank has evolved his football with Spurs. Say we have the ball here. In pre-season, we were building up in a sort of 3-2 shape. When it's a goal kick, like at City, it was more of a 4-2-4. This is how we sort of drew City in a little bit. Pretend this number 9 here. This number 9 is Sarr. This is sort of how we built up against City, which kind of worked. We had the ball here. We had our centre-backs really far out wide. Porro was here, and it was Spence for this game, wasn't it? And then you had Bentancur, Palinho in the middle, and Sarr almost as a number 10. Now, the reason this sort of Frank ball stuff works against teams like Man City is because what we were doing is playing the ball to Romero. We recognise that Porro is our best passer. Fair enough. Let's just get a few City players in. You had Haaland was there. You had Oscar Bob was closing the keeper off this way. I think Marmouche, was it on at the time, was sort of here. Then you had like of Cherky. City would go quite man-to-man and really aggressive. And we realised that Porro is our best part. So we kind of didn't want to play through them because we know that City's midfielders, fantastic. So what we did, we went to Romero to Porro, and played a long ball over the top to, well, in this case, it was Sarr who ended up flicking it on to, was it Richarlison at the time? I can't quite remember. And then we had Brennan Johnson and Co. just run into the back post. And City leave a lot of space in behind. This style of Frank ball and building up in this 4-2-4 from deeper positions works against the Man City because they press you really aggressively man to man. And it's why it worked in the Champions League not that long ago against, was it Copenhagen and Slavia Prague? Slavia Prague actually went way more aggressive in terms of their press than I thought they would. I thought that game might have been a bit of a struggle because I just assumed that, you know, a low down team in the Champions League, they would come and they would set up shop a little bit, but they actually went really aggressive man to man. And one of their defenders is going to get messy now. Pretend the blue is is Slavia Prague. When Xavi Simons was like here, one of their centre-backs actually really aggressively pushed up into him and left so much space to the point where they defended like this. See these three here? That was how Slavia Prague defended. One of their centre-backs went and really pressed Xavi Simons like that. But then their fullback still defended really wide when it was like Kudus, and I can't remember who it was. Was it Odegaard? I can't remember now off the top of my head. But it just meant that there was so much space, and then Xavi would spin him and drive forward, and then that's how he could get the goal. And that works if people will press you aggressively. But when you're playing against a team that a lot more settled, what will happen is most teams defend in some sort of, again, just ignore the numbers because they're not accurate. Most teams defend in some form of 4-4-2 shape. Like this. I know they're blue. But let's just pretend that that's Sunderland. I'm just going to put the goalkeeper in. And in fact, they would defend quite deep. Our problem is when we were sort of in and around the box and they were defending somewhat deep. In fact, Broby might stay up a little bit more, but we're talking a little bit more generally now. This is the problem I have with Frank Ball. You had Richie sort of in the middle. Tell out here, and in fact, let me put the numbers in just as there. Let's say Tell had the ball out here. Let's bring everyone up a bit more. So I've got two defenders there. Got our midfielders here who are Graham Bentancur. Ben Davis sort of in this position. Pedro Porro sort of in this position. And Kudus out wide here. Is that right? Yeah. So then it almost becomes like a 2-4-4. The problem we have is we don't know what to do when we're in this sort of position here. Tell is not amazing 1v1 like Odegaard is. So he's not going to attack him like here. And too many times, let's say Odegaard made a run here to try and get him behind. Tell would run across this way with the ball to try and get an opening here. But because most teams, especially away from home, coming to our ground, set up quite defensively, more often than not, it's ball to here, ball to here, ball to here, over to Kudus. Kudus can't get around. Back to Porro. Back to Bentancur. And then what they will do is obviously will press at a certain point. They'll have certain triggers to move forward a little bit. It's not like they're just standing off completely. And then if there's too much pressure and there's no options anywhere for anyone to pass to, it goes back to the centre-backs. Let's put Vicari here because realistically it was about there. And it's just a constant state of... And it's not like we're doing it quickly either. We're passing it here. Everyone seems to be marked by someone, but they're still relatively deep. Let's just go this way. Oh, let's just go this way. Tell goes out wide. Davies wants the ball. Davies has the ball. Davies goes out wide. In fact, Davies actually did put one really good cross from this position. And I think this is the danger area. Oh, it's gone again. Right. I think my battery's dying on that thing. So apologies. But this is the danger, right? And I think if we can get good deliveries from this sort of half space in towards the back post where people are maybe making runs, like you've got Kudus there, maybe Odebear's in there as well, maybe one of the midfielders is making a run, and usually that's Bergvall, but he didn't come on until later in the match. I think you're far more likely to get a dangerous crossing from this position because it's always a bit more difficult to mark players. And Ben Davies did it once, which I thought was brilliant. But this is, again, the issue we have with when we say that when you have Jed Spence in this position here, because he's not naturally left-footed, he can never really cross the ball in dangerously that way. So what happens with, let's just pretend number 5 is now Jed Spence, our winger would be in this corner here, can't really go anywhere because the two players are here, and it will just go to Jed Spence. And then Spence would go to, maybe the defenders are slightly higher, maybe the Spence will go to the defenders. And it's just this constant U-shaped football. And usually, like someone said in the chat, who said it there? THFC Max 8719. In that position, we mostly cross. We don't try to be direct. Yeah, so I get that. Frank's put a massive emphasis on crosses. Like, he wants you to cross from these positions. But when we can't find an opening to do so, it's just, okay, let's just go again. Let's go this way round. All right. Now Kudus has gone the width. Can we get a crossing from this way? No. All right, we go back. But then eventually when we do, either, and this is where maybe the quality needs to improve, either the quality of the cross isn't great, so it gets headed clear, or, I mean, there was one time when Porro did it from this position. I think he actually did it on his left foot today, and it just went miles off the pitch. So the quality obviously can improve in terms of the personnel, like the players. But what I'm never seeing is any sort of intricate play. And that does stem from not really having a true number 10 like a Maddison, but then equally is Thomas Frank's platform in that way. When you've got players out here, and I know this is going to sound so basic, but we don't do it. Watching the next few Spurs games, we don't do it. We don't pass in triangles at all. It's really direct passing, like straight line passing. Let's just say Porro, and I know I keep moving things around a little bit, but if we're trying to ignore the opposition players for now, when we're trying to progress up the pitch, it's very much like let's say Porro's out wide here. It's very much straight line. I wonder if I can draw a line here. Is this going to work? I don't know if this is going to work. Oh, maybe like this will. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. It's very much straight lines like that. That is how we play. It's just long ball over, straight line to Kudus, who is in that situation. Every time. What I never see, really, is, let's say Porro has the ball, he's driven upwards. Porro has the ball here. Kudus still hugs the touchline there. You need a player to form these triangles to really, let's say someone's pressing on Porro, this, that, and the other. You need to be able to play some triangles like this. And I know this sounds so basic. I know it sounds basic, and you think, yeah, it's a Premier League team. Of course they do. Watch us play. We don't do it ever. It's just straight line balls to Kudus and just hope that he takes on a player and gets a crossing. It's never to here. And it's not just about triangles, it's about the rotations. Porro should never be static in this position here. If we bounce the ball this way, can Porro come inwards a little bit more? Can Kudus come there? Can we play it here? But then the midfielder makes a run that way. So that we've swapped the triangle around rather than having the two out wide, which I always think it's harder to sort of play that way because you're restricted by the line. I feel like you're almost better with the point of the triangle, shall we say, being by themselves, because then they've got their back to the line. They've got players and options to pass to either way. Can we create dynamics like that? And I tell you when I have seen that this season, actually. And this becomes with understanding of each other and maybe better positioning players. I'll tell you when this does happen quite well this season. It's on this side when it is Udogie here. Who was it? It was Udogie, Xavi, and Odebear. I believe it was Bodo Glimt away when Xavi came on. I noticed this. These three form really good relationships on this left-hand side. And obviously, when Xavi's in the 10, he likes to operate on this left-hand side more. And I think because he has played left wing as well, and Odebear has played in the 10, they can really rotate well. And not only that, because both of these two are good at coming in the middle, pause, because they both can play in the middle, it allows and gives Udogie the license to overlap, which helps because he's a left-footed player. And I think these three form really good. And Xavi loves intricate passing. He's not a Maddison who can spray a lovely through ball or long ball over the top. That's not really his game. He's a different profile player. He's a better ball carrier. He draws in fouls similar to how Grealish draws in fouls. And he wants short, intricate football and moving quickly. And I think Odebear's quite good in those sort of tight situations as well. So if you have these two in the middle like this, in some capacity, rotating with each other and then rotating the ball with Udogie and progressing the ball up the pitch this way, constantly rotating positions, you can get the ball out wide to Udogie, who can either whip a ball in on his left foot, which they tried to improve earlier in the season. You can have Odebear drop in this space here if Udogie comes in and Xavi makes the run through, and whether there's room to play a ball there, I don't know, but then you could always go back to Odebear. And then there's constant rotations, right? Maybe Odebear can drive in. Maybe Udogie comes, collects, Odebear makes the run forward, but then that leaves Xavi free. The only time I've seen that intricate style of play, so to speak, is when those three did it in the second half against Bodo Glimt. And then I think there was one other game. Oh, it might have been Copenhagen at home when we devoured them. They did it there. We don't see it on the right-hand side at all with, and now I'm going to add names, with Kudus, with Porro. And who would you argue is him? Because this is the problem. If you've got, say Xavi is playing, say Xavi is our 10. To be fair, against Copenhagen, Xavi did come this way. So if Xavi was playing, I would want to see Xavi come across that way. We don't really see that intricate play between these three like that, because that's not how Thomas Frank has profiled them. And I mean, let's remove, because Xavi's not available, let's even remove him from the equation. Do you know who's on that right-hand side for us most of the time? Well, when he plays, is actually Palinho. Who's it? Gray and Berval today. I think it was Bentancur. Was on the right, or maybe it's Gray. But either way, actually no. I think Bentancur goes on the left usually. I think it was Gray today. When it's these three here, you're not really seeing that same movement from Gray that you would have with a Xavi or something like that. And then even then, that's not the game plan with these guys. Let me put Bentancur here. We don't ever progress the ball with any sort of intricate attacking play. It's usually Porro, long ball over top to the Kudus work your magic, but then more often than not, he either tries to take him on, sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't, passes backwards. Oh, moved the wrong thing. Passes backwards to Porro. So I know I'm going on a bit of a long rant here, but this is just what I'm observing from us this season. There is no intricate attacking play. It felt better in the first half. We saw it a little bit more. I think Porro had a little bit more license to go forward at times because there were occasions where, now let me change it back. There were occasions where Davies maybe just sat back a little bit more to allow Porro when he was attacking this space. Davies did obviously get forward a few times in this sort of area, but there were times where he could sit back a little bit, and you've got this 2-3 build-up, which is fine. Oh, I'm actually going to change everyone's names now. Let's go Romero. Let's go Van de Ven. Let's go... Makes it a lot easier to see if I actually put the names in. Richie, and it wasn't Xavi, it was... We had Tell, because Odegaard was actually in the middle. We did see it a lot better, actually, because they could kind of settle in the 2-3 shape like that when we're further up the pitch. And Porro can whip in dangerous crosses from this position. He doesn't do it enough. I think the quality of his crossing has dropped a little bit this season. But we did see a little bit better movement in the first half. But that also helped by the fact that Tell could hold a bit more width, and Davies was crossing from here. Or even when Davies was here, Tell, a lot of the times he ran inwards. And when Porro does have the ball, you've got Tell, you've got Richie, and I think Kudus was sort of holding here in case a pass was needed. Odegaard could obviously run in as well. You had players to cross into, so it was a little bit better. But again, it's not just about positioning, it's about movement. I like the fact that a few times, Odegaard, because he's also a winger, he could be the touchline winger, and Tell is good at, like I said, these inside forward positions. He's always inside, so they can almost swap over. Maybe when the time comes for it, Odegaard comes in, Tell drags him out wide, and he gets the ball either way. And he can create some of these positions. There was more balance in the first half. Unfortunately, Kudus got excuse me, Kudus got injured and had to come off for Randall Colomwani. And then later on, Odegaard had to come off. And who ended up being here? Was it Bergvall again? Oh, I can't remember who came on. Bergvall was sort of in these areas, and he doesn't have that sort of intricate link-up play. So yeah, all in all, I basically said all of that to say that we felt more cohesive because we had better profiles. But then by the time we ended the game, we had Spence back at left back, and it was Scarlett that came on here. Again, we're playing a striker at left wing. I don't understand. Scarlett should be in the middle. You then end up having this, and then sometimes Colomwani would swap over the other side. That was more when Tell was on the pitch. And this just felt... Again, Spence can't overlap Scarlett ever. Scarlett's not a natural left winger. That makes this side completely null and void. We were under the cosh towards the end of that second half anyway. And Bergvall's just not a 10. He's a machine. He's a number 8. Again, similar to these guys. A good runner. And yeah, I get that he presses the ball well. But he's not someone that links up well with players. And I think he's wasted in that 10. The lack of attacking patterns is ridiculous. The ceiling feels truly low. I agree. And I don't think it's all to do with the players not being good enough to do certain things. I think the manager isn't platforming the players to link up well and play to their best abilities. He played Xavi left wing and isolated most of the time when you want him in tight spaces linking up in the middle. But we weren't even playing through the middle when we had Xavi there. It was just always long ball over him to the wingers. How can he get involved? I think Brentford get these results because teams play more expansive against them. Frank Ball is just counter-attacking style suited for the underdog. Exactly. And this is what I'm saying. But the reason why I was so for Frank I say so for Frank, I was happy with his appointment, was because... you can see my bikes and stuff in the background there. The reason why I was a bit happy for it is because he seemed to adapt year from year. And in that season in the Championship, before they got promoted, they did play expansive football. It was good attacking football. So in my mind, I was sort of thinking then, okay, he's clearly a clever guy. So in terms of the football sense, I mean, he probably is clever anyway, but when he makes that next step up, I thought he was able to develop a style that would have been similar to how he had a dominant Brentford team in the Championship. He's not done that at all. He's set us up as if we're Brentford and beating down on us the whole time. He said, remember we finished 17th last season, this, that and the other. And I'm like, Yeah, I know we finished 17th, but then he's also then ignoring his own context in terms of we won the Europa League. We didn't have Romero and Van der Ven the whole season due to injury. And you can argue that is Ange's fault maybe for the start of football, but the fact was we had Gray, Davis and Dragoshin rotating as our two centre-backs for half a season. No wonder we struggled. And let's be real, we were on the beach, given how poor those bottom three were, from about March onwards. We were about, if I remember correctly, we were about 12th, 11th, 12th in March. And we completely sacrificed games because we knew we were sort of safe to go for Europa League, which I'm happy with because that Europa League win was the greatest night of my life. And I'll never forget that. But Frank almost seems to be using that as an excuse to say, well, these players are clearly 17th worthy players. I've got to play this way, without even thinking about the fact that, no, we are still Tottenham Hotspur. We're still a team where if a Sunderland, for example, come to our stadium, they're going to be on the more defensive side and be really solid defensively. So what is your plan when we're in possession? What is the plan? And I've seen nothing. It still seems to be just hit it long to Kudus and just pray that he can do something for us. Do you know what I mean? And that's the worrying thing. It's been it's been over half a season now. And I've not seen any sort of... You can back a manager if you can see their vision, but maybe the players just simply aren't good enough. If I was seeing him trying to implement these attacking plays... Sorry, I got a bit of a cold. It's quite freezing in here. If I could see him trying to set up these intricate attacking plays, maybe in a way to break down, and it's not even just like he has to play that way all the time. Adapt a little bit, maybe for 20 minutes of the match, try short, intricate football, then go long because you can entice the team out a little bit more. If you're playing short, intricate passing football quickly, naturally, opposition are going to come at you a bit more. That leaves the space to then go long for a bit. PSG is a fine example of using rotations amongst players phenomenally. Their defensive midfielders aren't really actually defensive midfielders because they all run past the striker anyway. It causes confusion, but they're able to play up shortly, quickly through each other and rotate positions. Sometimes wingers will cut inwards and you've got overlapping fullbacks in Mendes on one side and Hakimi on the other. Like you even Chelsea against us at our ground were far more intricate in terms of how they were rotating. You had James sometimes playing right back, sometimes centre mid. We had Gusto, who was right back, then charging forward and almost as like a right attacking midfielder. We're not doing any of that. We were playing rigid ass football for so long. It was just you had to be in your zone at your end and it would never change. You weren't allowed to change and it became predictable. And I'm not seeing anything to suggest that Thomas Frank is trying to get us to play with a little bit more intricacy when we're coming up against teams that are a little bit more settled in their defence and maybe are trying to hit us on the counter, especially at home. That's why we were so good away, because teams come at us a little bit more, like Everton. They're going to have more confidence when they're at home because they think, yeah, this is our ground. We're going to play a little bit more expansive. And I know, okay, that game in particular maybe is a bad example because we scored from 2 corners. But there were games like that from other teams during the season. Man City, again, another one. They're going to come at us because they got the confidence. Okay, we can hit them on the counter. That's why we've got good results away from home. At home, we don't know what to do at all when teams are more defensive, like I've just gone through now on your screen. And that's just worrying. And we can't go in with this mentality that all of a sudden we're a Brentford level team. And again, this is not disrespect to Brentford. It's just fact. We've had regular Champions League football for about 7-8 years. Then, all right, we took a dip, but then Conte got us back into the Champions League. Then we're in the Europe places in Conference League and Europa League, and we had aspirations of being back into the Champions League. Now, all of a sudden, we just seem to like accept the fact that, oh yeah, well, no, we're definitely just a Brentford level team now. And I get the team is nowhere near as good as it was when we don't have Kane to save us. We don't have Heung-min Son to save us. I get that. 100%. Like we do have a drop off, especially in our attacking areas. But I'm not being funny. Go back and look at some of the teams we've had to field. Conte got us Champions League football with Longley, Davinson Sanchez and Eric Dyer as our back three. And then we had like Emerson Royale, Serge Aurier, Matt Doherty, and during like the sort of Mourinho era. Skip that people complained about, like Winks. Like these players who everyone deemed nowhere near good enough, even Højbjerg to an extent, those players still got Champions League football. Yet I'm supposed to accept the fact that Romero, World Cup winner, Copa America winner twice, Van der Ven, Porro, Udogie, even Spence last year. Really and truly, that back four isn't bad. It might not be the best. It's not bad back four. I do think the midfield, in terms of its balance, is atrocious. We almost have four of the same profile of player. And then, of course, we're missing Maddison, which is just killer. But you then go and sign Xavi, who's Champions League level player. All right, he needs an adaptation period. He's not been anywhere near the best as we thought he would. He needs an adaptation period. But let's be real, he is a Champions League level player. He's proven that multiple times. He's an international for Holland, a starter for Holland. Colin Moani, again, maybe he's been disappointing, but you would argue he is Champions League level with what he did for Frankfurt, with what he's done for PSG. Juve, he had the best minutes to goal ratio, I believe, for that second half of the season when he was on loan. Looks nothing like that. Looks nothing like that for us this season. But again, I think we're playing him on the wings, which doesn't help. So again, that's back to the manager. Who else have we got? Okay, you can argue, right, Odegaard, Tell, they're just like squad young players. Same with Gray, Odegaard, Gray, Bergvall. They need time to develop. We just signed João Palhinha, which was Frank's number one signing. He wanted him through the door. But that's not the profile play we needed. We didn't need someone that can just tackle well. Again, that is a sign of a mid to low table team. If you're signing a player that just is there to purely tackle. His in possession ability is woeful. And we all said that in the summer. We needed a deep line playmaker. And because we don't have that profile in the squad. And to be honest, the closest, emphasis on closest, not that they are one, the closest that we have in the squad was Basuma. But he just went and was an idiot and doing all the balloon nonsense and this, that, and the other. So he was then not even an option to choose from. And even then, he's not perfect for that role either. Money Mace, with this squad, there is no star player for me. We have no Kane, Son, Bale, Ginola, and of course, there are many other examples. I do agree with you in that front. I do honestly, genuinely believe that Xavi has the ability to become that sort of star level player. I think we're finding a lot at the moment these, and not to just generalize it, but so far this season, Bundesliga players or I say Bundesliga, it's not even Bundesliga players. Wirtz and Xavi have both come from the Bundesliga at the same time for decent fees. Obviously, Wirtz, astronomical fee, and both have struggled to adapt so far. Wirtz, last couple of games actually is ticking along a little bit, but I think it's the physicality of the Bundesliga is nowhere near what it used to be. And in fact, the closest in terms of physicality and intensity to the Premier League right now is Ligue 1, the French league. Surreal McCoys. We don't have a proper ball carrying number 8. Sarr, Bergvall, and Gray are all too similar. All runners and all give the ball away too often. Yeah. I would say out of those, it's even hard to argue. I'd say Gray, I think, is probably the better ball carrying A. I think Sarr and Bergvall are brilliant at pressing. They've got good engines. I think Bergvall does foul more than Sarr does, though. It feels like it anyway. Gray, I think, is in more of that sort of number 6 mold. Not a pure number 6, but more reliable, I'd say, on the defensive side of things, in terms of the fact he does the stuff that no one really pays attention to really well. Like covering for left back and this, that, and the other. There's been a few times this season if Spencer's bombed forward. Oh, you can't see that. There's been a few times this season where if Spencer's bombed forward, like in these positions, Gray has done a good job at covering and doing that sort of role. It's not an exciting role to play, but he does the basic stuff like that you'd expect from a sort of number 6, quote unquote, quite well. I think we persist with using Bergvall as a 10, which just he isn't. He hasn't got that sort of pass, like the decisive pass, or he's not really getting onto the end of things well enough. Whereas I think Sarr is really good in transitional games to sort of be up top with a striker and play the ball long to him. He is incredible at winning second balls. If someone else heads it and brings it down, he'll pick up the second ball a lot. I think he does that extremely well, and obviously he's just got an engine for days. But like you say, with the ball at his feet, he's definitely better at carrying the ball than he is passing. Passing definitely needs a lot of work. But I feel like that's the same with every midfielder. I think we've just got too many of the same profile of players in midfield. Far too many. I don't trust the manager with the new signings, I'll be honest. Yeah. Sort of with you on that a little bit. I agree with Xavi. Feel like he's been getting hate, but man, on his day, he's something special. Really wanted to do well and be a success. I think he will, to be honest with you. I think it's easy to get on his back because he's a new signing, a lot of money, and we had like such high expectations for him. And I think, to be honest with you, I thought he was ticking along well. When he was getting regular minutes in that number 10, I thought he was slowly progressing and getting better. But our football just doesn't suit him. And that's down to the manager. Terrible football. Need someone like Stiller in midfield. Yeah, I think Stiller would be a great option. The ones for me is Lamine Kamara. I think Lamine Kamara, he's on the shorter side, but again, Kante was one of the best players in the league, and he was short. Lamine Kamara from Monaco is a phenomenal deep line playmaker for such a young age. For people his age, he is brilliant. He's only 21 years old, I think. Senegalese as well. I get Sarr on the phone. If not, I think Adam Wharton's the one, really. If in terms of you've got your long-term English sort of deep line playmaker, brilliant at passing, always looking forward, he'd be fantastic. Costs a lot of money. Probably won't happen in January. Will have to be a summer move. Are we back? I think we lost connection there.